welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I am sitting not next to Eric Eastman, although he's similar to Eric Eastman.
What's up?
In some ways, but not many.
People around these parts call me Big Joe.
No, they don't. Nobody calls you Big Joe. Well, this is my grandson, Damon Hess. He goes to West High School, and he is a pain in the bum.
Can Big Joe put the mic a little bit closer in front of
Big
him?
Joe.
Yo, what's poppin'? It's Big Joe.
So, actually, I invited my grandson on with you because they had the walkout today. So I figured if there was any opportunity to get out of class, he would have been involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to find out what he thought, how many kids actually showed up versus, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's crazy. But first, before we get on that subject, this is the first time on the show. This is Lisa Freeman, the representative, school board member. Why did you get involved in politics?
I'm not involved in politics. I'm involved in my community. I'm not a politician.
I know that. In the traditional sense of the word, you're not, but in the practical sense of the word, you are.
The money. I did it for the money, Gary.
I know, the $100.
Well, the $100 is a state rep, and the $2,000 stipend I get on the school board.
Yeah, but you said you don't even keep the stipend.
Well, I know, but that's not the point.
The point was to get the money, not necessarily to use it.
Because I wanted to be involved in my community. That's.
Oh, I wanted to point this out, which is bizarre. I don't think they do that. I don't know how many other cities or towns do that. But in Manchester, if you're a member of the school board, you're eligible for the insurance.
The health insurance.
Which is a pretty Cadillac health insurance program.
It's nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah. I don't take it.
And you don't take it?
I don't take it because
it's expensive.
Not for me. It wouldn't be. I'd only have to pay 20% of the premium.
I'm talking about for the taxpayers.
It's absolutely expensive for the taxpayers, and my stand on that has been there are many people in my ward who don't have health insurance, can't afford health insurance, and why should I get health insurance on the backs of the taxpayers?
Right.
Virtually, when you become elected, it's a volunteer position.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a paid position. You're not supposed to be enhanced more.
Because that insurance, because it's $2,000 for sitting on the school board.
Yep, stipend.
But that insurance has got to be worth a whole heck of a lot more than $2,000.
Depending on how many people are on your plan, and because the city is self-insured, we never really know how much we spend because we can never get a real number.
Right.
Because the city's self-insured, we virtually pay out of pocket. So say somebody has a hip replacement surgery. I know how much hip replacement surgeries cost. So just the titanium hip alone is $30,000.
Yeah.
The surgery itself, not including an anesthesiologist in your hospital, say, with the titanium hip is about $50,000. So when all is said and done in your rehab and everything, you're looking upwards of about, $100,000 to maybe $125,000 for a hip replacement surgery. That's on the backs of the taxpayer.
Right.
It's on the back of the taxpayer. So I won't do it. I mean, I have health insurance through my husband's work. It's not a Cadillac plan, but it's just I should never be enriched by being an elected official.
Right.
I've always stood on that. So I would rather see that money for my premiums, which would be about $25,000 for a family plan, go right into the two schools that I represent in my ward.
Wow. It's very, very cool. Because most people don't do that. They see an opportunity. I mean, I could actually see somebody becoming a school board member just to get the insurance.
Well, we had a school board member say that once before, that this is a way to entice candidates. Well, no, that's not the way to entice candidates.
Right.
If I wanted to do that, I'd move down to Massachusetts and run for office. State reps down there just gave themselves a nice little raise. So they make about $80,000 a year for for part-time work, and they get all the state benefits.
Well, not only do they get the state benefits, they get $80,000 a year, but they also get, it's like when I was chairman of Fish and Game, which is appointed by the speaker, I would get an extra chunk of change just for being. You get money for being on the committee,
right?
Then you get extra money for being the chairman of the committee. And what really happens with that, a few years ago when Bill O'Brien was upset with me because I wouldn't vote with him, he kicked me off as chairman, right? And that was a tough position for me to be in because I really liked being chairman of Fish and Game. It was fun,
Sure.
right? So it was hard, but it would have been a lot harder if all of a sudden I was going to lose another $20,000 or $30,000 a year too.
Yep.
So the speaker has absolute financial control over his over the legislators. So
Right. So yeah, I mean, I've always stood on that. I mean, I do have a job because I have to pay my mortgage.
Right.
But I figured out monetarily what I've lost by being up at the State House.
that's a lot.
I've lost anywhere from $10,000 to about $12,000 just this term.
Right. Yeah.
So, which to a lot of people isn't a lot of money, but I'm not independently wealthy.
Yeah, to me, I missed out for the first 6 months of the year because I was for the first bunch of years I was working full time as a machinist, so I'd lose all my overtime, vacation pay, thousands and thousands of dollars every year to be up there.
Right.
So I get it.
And the thing is, I'm not tooting my own horn. I don't need accolades for it. I really don't. I don't need accolades for it. But I think people should ask these questions about their elected officials.
Right.
Are you going to take the health insurance if you get elected to the school board or the aldermanic board?
Right.
What does that mean to my tax bill? These are the types of questions. These are the
Right.
types of questions. And I'm not a career politician. I'll kill myself before I become a career politician. But my community was suffering for a while there, so
Yeah.
I stepped up to the plate. And I'm going to run for another term too.
You're a caught picking masochist then, really, is what you're
Well,
saying.
something like that.
All right, let's talk about this walkathon.
The walkathon, the walkout.
Oh, the walkout. There are different
walk.
things. They're separate things. Oh, okay. I was told that I could have it on.
Yeah, he said that you could have it on.
Said
Then
I
he
could have-
changed his mind.
He said I could have my hood on.
A caller just asked if you could show your beautiful face.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well, that caller was very diplomatic.
I don't think he said it that way.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, you are.
Fair. Also.
Anyway,
in
so-
the walkout, I wasn't able to ask people why they were doing it like you wanted me to, since it was a moment of silence. For a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time. But I can tell you that there was an odd movement as a protest against the gun control, because that was part of the movement with the walkout. Some people thought that they should counter that movement by playing a song called "Pumped Up Kicks."
You're making this up.
Um,
So this is where we need to be adults.
right.
And this is where we need the truth, because this whole walkout was an attempt by the students to be heard,
Yep.
okay? So if we're not getting the correct information, why should anybody listen? So did they play that song?
No,
he didn't.
he's just making stuff up. He's being goofy.
A lot of people didn't really care though. I and every single teacher that I asked thought that it was a waste of time because you're not helping anyone. It is, you want to be heard.
Yes.
I get that as a student because I feel that I'm not heard, but you're not making a stand by missing 17 minutes of school.
Was it 17 minutes, or did it turn out to be more than 17
It
minutes?
was 17 minutes.
Well, no, I understand it, but how long did it take you to get to where you needed to be?
Probably an extra like 3, so like 20
Okay,
minutes.
okay.
And I don't know that we're helping anyone. Like, I don't think the families are being helped. Maybe they're cheered up a little bit, but I don't think us leaving school as a worldwide protest against gun violence is going to stop anything.
So what are your ideas? How do you think you could help the families?
I don't know that we can. And, I mean, there's nothing going to bring their kids back.
It's true.
So, but I don't know that we should be missing out on things just because we feel bad.
Do you think it would have? And I'm asking you, as I'm a parent, I have a son. Do you think it would have been more helpful if there was like a roundtable discussion with the Manchester Police Department and the school department, and just to find out what they were doing to keep all of you safe?
I don't know. I feel like maybe I don't really know what else could be done. Like maybe add an extra resource officer, but I can't imagine that's going to help too much. Yeah, I don't really know what else would be really done. I know that at least in West, they're starting training for that situation, that specific, which I don't really know what that means. A lot of kids at my school think that means that the resource officer who's in charge of that is going to fire off blanks in a pretend situation.
No, that's absolutely not
It's
going to happen.
definitely, yeah, that sounded like it was not
That's
real.
Rumors. Rumors are a horrible thing.
Well, they did definitely. He announced that they were going to start doing training. I don't know what
Right.
that is.
You'll do drills, but there will never be a gun discharged in the school by an officer with blanks or live ammunition. That's not going to occur.
Or live in what?
Or live ammunition.
You mean
Like
for
actual
practice?
bullets.
You mean?
Right. No.
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. For drills.
Don't
Oh,
ROTC practice with actual guns?
What's that?
Don't ROTC practice with actual guns?
No,
in
those
the
are
field?
air rifle. That's air rifle. That's air rifle, and that's probably a thing that's going to get attacked at the next school board meeting too. But that's an air rifle, which does not fire anything but pellets.
Yeah, plastic pellets. I have one.
Right.
Well, not a. I have a pistol.
Right. So you don't feel like it really
Helped. No.
accomplished anything.
No.
But do you have, I mean, the whole premise of this was for students to be heard. Their voices needed to be heard. So what do you think we should be listening to? What do you think they were trying to tell us?
Well, I think for one, it was supported by the schools, which I think kind of took away the message. In reality, like they meant it to be like, we get what you're doing and we support it. But I think it just becoming like an organized event kind of took away the meaning behind it.
Right, it wasn't spontaneous, you mean? It wasn't like a bunch of you got together and said, look, we're going to protest the quality of the food in the cafeteria.
Right.
You know, not to minimize it, because this is a very serious issue. But we're going to protest that we can't stay 5 more minutes in the cafeteria. It wasn't something like that. You have a call, Gary.
Yes, you do.
Hello, welcome to Rock Paper Hang Raise. Can I help you? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, what,
Hi, Gary. Hi, Lisa Freeman. And the young man on the right, I didn't get his name because I just put it on.
What's up?
It's Damon.
It's your boy.
Hi!
You know what I was thinking? My father and my brothers have guns. They always had them in the house. And we have rifles and everything because they did hunting and everything. And target practicing in New Boston and so on. But when I worked at Manchester Housing Authority, I think the last 7 or 8 years I was there, downstairs where the receptionist was, the secretary, the receptionist, they put a bulletproof glass, like over the kiosk.
Yep.
And also, when I brought a person up to the Department of Welfare, that lady, the receptionist, had a bulletproof glass over all in the front of her, like.
Okay.
And I don't know, I was just thinking that might be a good idea to have something like that in the main office in the schools.
Well, so
Perhaps having one, well, like at Memorial, they have 3 as you come in. But say you had a bulletproof glass, and that this is at the main office there. And one person that, has probably fired guns or that is or willing to learn how to fire a gun and keep it with her.
So right now what happens at the
concealed.
right now what happens at all the
Similar to
schools?
a bank teller,
Sandy, right?
I would say. Something
hey,
like
Sandy.
that.
Sandy.
Now,
Sandy.
people are having more bulletproof in Manchester. They're having more bulletproof kiosks.
Sandy. Sandy.
There might be a problem. There might be some problems.
So Sandy,
Evidently, the Department of Welfare in Manchester thought there was going to be a problem, even though they have an officer sitting in a corner there, too.
right.
Now, there was no officer at Manchester Housing Authority. When I was there for 17 and a half years, we took care of elderly handicapped upstairs. And We didn't have any kind of an officer or anything, but,
So Sandy, let me explain to you what the schools do right now. Every single school, you can't get into a school unless you're buzzed in. So,
I know.
Yeah,
I know
right.
that. Even myself, now, even though the secretaries know me at Memorial and 7 schools in Ward 8, most of them know me because I was 14 years on a school board, Lisa.
Yep.
But if I say, it's Sandra Duva's Paradise, and I ring the bell, the buzzer first, and I go in, and then I go, but then they have like 2 offices like at Memorial. They have, you go in and there's another set of windows and the door, and then you go in and you speak to the secretary.
And you have to sign in there, and then they ask you where you want to go, and then they direct you to the office.
Than years ago,
Right.
If we volunteered, our family volunteered for 30, 40 years in the school systems.
Sure.
All my families, the Dubas and the Paradise families, and we didn't have to be fingerprinted. We didn't have to have a background check. We didn't have to have any of that. And I know
Different times, Sandy,
everything
different
is so
times.
different today,
Different
right?
times, yep. Different times.
Hey, Sandy,
Yes.
I'm going to spend some more time with my guest. Thanks for the call, hon.
Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, but you know what I was going to say? One thing, I'll tell you, if I was younger, I would have walked with the kids.
Good for you.
How's that?
Good
All
for
right,
you.
bye, hon.
Yep, because I was thinking of putting a sign out front, enough is enough. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
All right, so I want the viewers to understand who this group is. The group that organized, funded, and created this movement for kids to walk out for 17 minutes or whatever the heck is the group is called Enough Nation School Walkout. Premier partners of this group, they're the same organization that organized the women's movement
It is the women's
march,
movement.
okay?
Yeah.
After Donald Trump got elected.
Mm-hmm.
The prime movers and shakers are Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Now, it's certain irony in the fact that you got a Planned Parenthood that kills millions of kids every year staging a protest against a few teenagers.
Planned Parenthood, since Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood has been responsible for approximately 70 million deaths.
Right.
70 million.
70 million deaths.
70 million.
Yeah.
Well, I don't agree with abortion, but I do think it needs to be said that it is abortion, which is not okay in my opinion, and I believe the opinion of everyone at this table, but is technically different than deaths in law right now.
Correct. Technically, you're correct. Okay. So another group is NRDC. I just had to look at that up while we were talking because I didn't know what it was. NRDC is an environmental movement.
Uh-huh.
Okay. 350.org, 50/50 Project. If you look at the group of people, the groups, the Feminist Majority Foundation,
Yes, very liberal.
the National Association of Working Women. Anyway, if you go through, you can find a list of all the people that
did.
donated.
I did, and I actually found out who funds those organizations. And it's traced right back to George Soros's major foundation.
Right.
So, people tell me that you're a conspiracy theorist. How can that be? That could never be. Well, you know what it is.
Right. Now,
It
so
is.
you have to look at, so what's the purpose of this walkout? You have a bunch of teenagers coming out and walking out, again, on a subject, obviously it's emotion,
Absolutely.
right? And I totally get the emotional part of it, but I believe looking at the group of people that are involved in organizing this, that it was strictly using the emotion of what happened in Florida as a way to motivate teenagers to get out and hopefully vote for Democrats in the fall, because it had nothing to do. They're not doing anything that's actually functionally.
So when we talked about I'll tell you what, when we talked about this Monday night at the school board meeting, basically my statement was, look, these kids have every right to be heard. They have every right to be heard.
Yep.
They have every right to be afraid. They have every right to have their fears addressed. This does none of those things. There are 100 different vehicles we can use in order to allay what the fears that these kids are having right now. It's 4 weeks after the fact. Do we have to keep ripping the Band-Aid off?
Right.
And opening up this wound? I mean, when do we allow these kids to get on with their lives?
Right.
When do we allow them to heal? So, and I'm big with that because, you can keep rubbing salt in an open wound and keep that wound open. But what are we doing to move forward with this?
Right.
Walking out of class for 17 minutes is not a positive way to deal with this.
Especially on a 2-hour delay where classes are already shortened.
It is not a positive way, honestly. And I think community forums need to be happening. I think the students should come in front of law enforcement, the school district, parents. Let's talk this out.
Legislators.
Legislators, everybody. Let's talk this out. Let's talk about the facts of what happened in Florida. Let's talk about that very broken young man who did this.
Yep.
A heinous act. Never can condone it. But let's look at the pathology behind him. Let's look at the 39 phone calls that went to the police department over this kid. Let's look at the 3 or 4 FBI investigations that were supposed to happen that didn't. The phone calls that he made asking for help.
Right.
There is a much larger issue going on here. Much larger issue.
The other thing is you had a resource officer with a gun who stayed outside the building. So what's the point of having if we have resource off? Let's give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt when I can, or when I'm feeling generous, I suppose. Giving him the benefit of the doubt. Why didn't he go in? Was
We may never find out,
was his
Gary.
training so bad?
We may never find out, just like we haven't heard a blip about Las Vegas.
No, we haven't heard anything.
87 people died, and we have not heard a word. Why
There
is
is
that?
something really wrong about that one.
That's correct.
Another thing, I think I remember you addressing this on your show, but I think it's important people realize it, is school shootings were uncommon. I mean, they're still uncommon, but they're on a rise since specifically Columbine, and I think that is because that was the first really mediated, like everyone knew about it. It was all over the news. It was all over everything.
I think the word you're looking for is sensationalized.
Right, that's a good one.
You can use it.
And since then, they've just gone up because people with severe mental disabilities, or not disabilities, disorders, such as like anxiety and depression, desperately feel a need for attention, and they think, well, bad attention is better than no attention. Mm-hmm. So they find this way they have a villain complex. They see, this is a way everyone will know me, for good or for bad. I will be known for a long time, and they go down in history as someone terrible, but they go down in history. They want to be remembered.
That is very insightful. You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. I believe that as well. That these people want their 15 minutes of fame, good, bad, or indifferent.
Hey, before I forget, because I'll forget.
Hey,
When you win your nomination in September, you're allowed to introduce legislation. You and I should get together and co-sponsor a resolution to resolve that the House and the Senate would request that the news media, such as Channel 9, after a shooting like this, do not publicize the person's name.
the elections are in November.
No. After we win our primaries,
I won't be in a primary.
you have to be in a primary.
Not unless there's 2 state representatives.
Right, I get that, but you still will be in a primary even
Right.
if it's not contested.
Okay.
So once you win your primary in September, you and I can go in on legislation
That's fine.
for a resolution to tell places. We can't obviously do it nationally. We can tell Channel 9 and the local news people, please do not ever, after a shooting like this, use the
Publicize
person's name.
because then they're known.
Then they're known.
I agree. And honestly, while I do understand why these students wanted to protest today, I have a huge issue with the media being there interviewing students. I have a huge issue with that. You know, we live in an age now where people don't have the ability to have privacy. We have laws in the school districts against protecting a student's identity called FERPA, and I know you're familiar with those, Gary.
Yeah.
So, but we have to adhere to that as school board members, as teachers. Why is it the media doesn't have to adhere to that?
Right.
Why, you know, if a person is under the age of 18, they're under the age of consent, so they don't have the ability to say to somebody who's interviewing them on camera, no, I don't want you to put my image and my name out there. So I think that's something else we should look at as well.
Right.
I really do. I've always had an issue with that. You know, students need to be, their privacy needs to be protected.
Yeah, they should also feel free to be kids.
And that's what I mean about why are we doing this 4 weeks after the fact? How about a candlelight vigil in City Hall? You want to memorialize the 17 that were killed? A candlelight vigil in City Hall would be the perfect way to show that. The perfect way to show support and go through some of the grieving process about this and really kind of, you know, dissect why this happened. But this is a much larger issue than just guns. And I think people need to, we need to be truthful with these young adults about why this happened.
Right.
And we have a huge problem in this country with mental health services. We don't have any.
Yeah, well, also, when a kid starts acting up, the first course of action is to medicate them.
Right.
And then there's no follow-up.
Exactly.
I know a bunch of people who they'll go into the doctor will prescribe something, and
that'll be the end of it.
And it's a medication that can alter their mood, their feelings, and everything else. And when you're at a certain age, your emotions are reality.
Well, and there's some evidence that points to that these mass shooters, not evidence, but it's there. They were all on medication.
They were all on medication or had just gotten off medication.
Well, I don't know if they were off medication, but they
There's
had
both.
been prescribed, right, but depending on, let's look at selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are antidepressants like Zoloft and Paxil. Those have been known for people under the age of 18 to have some very, very, very significant side effects.
Right.
Suicidal ideation, full-blown suicidality. So if those kids were prescribed those and did not titrate off those medications the way they're supposed to be, then that absolutely could have caused a homicidal rage or outburst. You know, Concerta, Accentra, any of those medications that they prescribe for ADHD, the Ritalin type drugs,
Right.
also can have the same effect if they're not used correctly or titrated correctly. They can all have those
They
effects.
also they don't monitor a kid. So you put a kid on a drug, and every kid reacts differently to a drug.
Absolutely.
Okay, I used to take a lot of steroids for physical problems, and I didn't understand because I was a little kid. Somebody should have told me. Says, when you take this, be careful because you might get really, really angry. I didn't know. I was just angry all the time, and I didn't get it. When you're medicated and you're angry, your mind can't cope with that, so it comes up with reasons why you're angry. So it's the feeling that comes first, and then your mind rationalizes it, so it's consistent. Your mind and your body and your emotions are consistent.
Right. Well, it's a real.
And so it's the same thing with depression.
It starts with the psychological thing, and then it manifests itself physiologically. It's a true response. I mean, when you become angry, there are certain brain chemicals that come into play.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a physiological response.
Right.
There's you can't dispute that. That's science. That's science. So when you're pumping these young kids with these drugs, whether they're SSRIs, whether they're the ADHD types of components, antipsychotic medications, this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. In the past 20 years, doctors have been all too eager to just open up that prescription pad. If a child has a problem in school, label them as ADHD and just put them on a medication.
Medicate the crap out of them.
And this is one of the reasons why we're seeing so many issues with rage in this population.
You want to know something, a fun little fact that I just found out?
Does that make sense? Are you listening to me? I'm sorry.
Yep. Are you going to tell him about the weird fact that I just...
No, I'm not
No.
going to tell him that weird fact. No. On the subject.
Your life is your life. We're not going to put it on the table, my
no,
friends.
he just said something.
I'm going to talk out when you're done, by the way.
All right, go ahead. Okay, you can say
you
something.
go first.
Yeah, just quick one. People might not know, like you're talking about the medication. The news media, CNN, ABC, all they covering is a gun issue, right? Want to know one reason why that might be the case? All of them, I think, except CBS, including Fox, all of them have a member from the drug companies on their board of directors.
I know that
So
too.
they
I
don't
know.
cover this story.
Yeah, they're
This
worried
is
about the NRA being this huge clandestine organization that pays all these politicians. No, they
That's
look
not-
at,
that's not
they
what the
need
pro-
to look at Big Pharma.
Big Pharma is the one
They need
covering
to
up
look
the
at
real
Big
story.
Pharma. Exactly.
All right.
And you
And
know
they're
what?
using kids like this, like his age, to keep the ball rolling and blame everything on guns.
Now, what would you like to say, my friend?
I think that another problem with the walkathon, going back on that, is that we kind of, I can say this as a high school student, we kind of look highly on kids just because they're young. I can assure you that 90% of the people that participated in the walkout didn't care. They just wanted to get out of school for 17 minutes. And as messed up as that might be,
No, it's not.
it's still...
It's not.
You need to find a better audience to kind of try and glorify the people that lost their lives.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, I know you may be surprised that I understand what you're saying because, you know, it was a long time ago that I was your age. So I understand it was a long time ago. How old are you?
14.
Right. It was a long time ago. So I do understand and do remember. I would have done anything to get out of class for 10, 15 minutes. I even took that hall pass and ran into that girl's room. And back in the day, when you could smoke you couldn't smoke in the girls' room, but you did because the matron wasn't in there. But I understand, which is why.
So wait, so you're confessing to smoking in the girls' room when you were in school? Is that what I'm? What is the?
I know I personally have never smoked in the girls' room. I would just like to announce that.
And you know what? I believe you. I believe you never have smoked in the girls' room.
What's the statute of limitations on smoking in the girls' room?
Well, the matron, unfortunately, is deceased, and it's
So
a
the
moot
long
point
arm
now.
of-
It's a moot point now. Even that high school is gone now.
Oh,
So-
okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the
but
evidence is.
the evidence is gone, and I
Yeah.
wasn't the only one. So if I get in trouble, I'm
taking everyone
throwing
down.
everybody
You're
under
taking-
the bus.
So,
I'm not going by myself.
this is an interesting fact that I was worried Gary was going to tell, but now I think I should, now that it's been on. People might be wondering what the fact that I was talking about was, and I don't want people to wonder, because I know how awful that experience can be.
Sure.
It's gonna be a long day.
No.
The youngest woman to have ever given birth was 5 years old in 1933.
How can that be?
You can look it up if you want. It's true.
I looked it up after he said it because I didn't believe him because I know he's full of baloney.
1933, 5 years old, 7 months and 21 days.
How is that possible?
I don't
Who
know. You would
knows?
think it'd kill her.
But she's not a fully developed woman.
Yep.
Yep, I know.
Who knows?
He's telling the truth.
So could it have been a phenomenon and maybe it was a twin?
Oh no, because that would have meant the twin stayed inside of her for 5 years.
That's terrifying.
That's terrifying and
That's
horrible.
true.
Oh, not any more terrifying and horrifying than a 5-year-old
Yeah.
giving birth.
Well, that's fair.
Thank you.
Where is
On
it?
the scale of horrifying, they're both very horrifying.
That
Thank you
is.
very much. So I have some facts for you.
Yeah, I'm not going to look that up.
Seeing
Okay.
as this march was not supposed to be about guns, but it is about guns.
It is about guns. It's,
It is
it's, a,
about
it's a
guns.
media thing more than.
And
it is-
Gary, we had a great weekend last weekend. The Pro 2A rally
Oh, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Concord was phenomenal.
The Women's Defense
Phenomenal.
League
The Women's Defense League.
put on a nice rally at the State House. I don't know how many people were there, but I got a few
There was,
pictures.
there was I believe there was close to 400.
Was that thing you were at where you were telling me which gun was the best? You were asking me to pick out a gun for you to go out.
Oh,
Rally
yeah. I was telling him couldn't decide which gun to wear when I went to...
You know what's funny? I didn't carry.
Yeah?
I didn't have to.
Certainly didn't.
I was in the safest place in the United States of America Saturday in Concord.
Did you see the lady with the purple AR-15?
I did.
That was awesome.
I did see that. So, and people don't understand that AR does not stand for assault.
No,
What
it's...
does AR stand for? Automatic.
No, it does not.
Well, okay, you tell me.
AR stands for Armor Light Rifle. The company that developed it, I believe the guy's name also was Armalite. So that's what AR stands for.
Thank
It has nothing to do with anything other than the name of the guy who invented it.
Right. An assault rifle, there's no such thing as an assault rifle.
No.
No such thing. So that's a fallacy.
Well, isn't it like a category of guns?
No.
No, not
No.
really. That's a fabricated name to make certain guns sound worse.
Then they really are.
They label the media, and it's on both sides. It's not a liberal or conservative thing. They have a way of trying. In fact, they worked really hard on developing the right terminology for any given situation to make it look better or worse than it really is, or to exaggerate it. So somebody along the line started labeling them assault rifles, but it's not. They're not really. That's not really what they are.
It's not an assault rifle. So I did pull up some interesting facts, and I spoke at the Women's Defense League rally, and I told a very short story about me in my younger years never holding a gun.
Right.
I've
Right.
never held. Grew up in Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. Had no reason to.
Right.
Had no reason to have guns. You know, I wasn't raised to fear them, but I wasn't raised with one.
Right.
And as I got older into young adulthood, I became fearful because that's what I was told to be.
Right.
Was fearful. Oh, guns, can't look at a gun. They're horrible, kill people. And then I met my husband, who was a veteran, who spent a lot of his younger days in New Hampshire hunting, even though he grew up right outside of Boston himself,
Right.
and took me pheasant hunting when we were dating.
When you're dating,
When we were dating.
I like this guy.
Well, you know, the thing was, I told him I'd been hunting before, but I lied.
Right.
Because you didn't want to seem like a pleb.
Well, no, because I liked him, and I wanted
And
to
you
go
didn't
out
wanna-
with him again. Right,
But
exactly.
you didn't want to seem like a pleb.
So the thing that really turned me around about guns was him.
Yeah.
When we went to the cranberry bogs and we were going pheasant hunting, he had a 12 gauge. His grandfather's 12 gauge. Big gun for me. Anyways,
Right. Yeah.
he took the time, took a half hour to go and ask me if I'd ever shot a gun that size. I said no, and I wasn't lying. I
Right.
wasn't lying.
Congrats.
So he showed me exactly how to handle it, how to load it, what works the best, safety, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
We trudged through those cranberry bogs. We didn't get one pheasant.
Right.
It just didn't happen. But then he let me discharge it, and I killed an already dead tree. I did say that.
Oh, yeah.
Killed an already dead tree, and that was a big gun to handle.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a big gun. But from that day forward, I had nothing but respect for guns and firearms. What they can do, and if you know what you're doing with them and you have respect for it as a tool, then you can never go wrong. You can never go wrong.
Right.
So I respect it as a tool.
Yeah.
And not just hunting, because people don't hunt like they used to,
No.
80, 90, 100 years ago. They don't hunt to put food on the table anymore.
Yeah.
But as a means to protect myself, or a means for my husband to protect his family, then it absolutely is a tool.
Right.
So I think a lot of the fear in New Hampshire, of all states, these people have all grown up with guns. Even in Manchester, they grew up with guns.
Yeah.
They've had fathers and brothers that have gone hunting, even women in their family who have gone hunting.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this has become such an issue when New Hampshire, in the entire country, we are the third safest state to live in. This is
What are first and second?
what.
What are
well,
first and second?
you know what? I didn't write it down. I'm sorry.
Well,
But
actually,
we're not first or second.
but
We're
you,
third.
but the only reason we're third is because of the cold weather.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I've checked on the statistics, and the reason New Hampshire isn't necessarily the safest state is just because people,
Die on
freeze to
mountains.
death or fall off a mountain or. Oh yeah, it's not. It's got nothing to do with. It depends on which statistics you're looking at. Also, I read a statistic a while ago. It was in the paper that New Hampshire was the least safe, one of the least safe states in the country
Because
the article was written
Based on some bogus reason.
It wasn't a bogus reason. It was written. They discerned safety by each state by
On their
how
gun laws.
how powerful, how effective or strong their gun laws were. And because New Hampshire had very weak gun laws, it was considered one of the least safe states in the country.
well, then the statistics I got on firearms deaths
Yeah.
for New Hampshire, we're number 38, which means in 2016 there were per 100,000 people we had 9.2 gun deaths. Okay?
9.2?
9.2 gun deaths, and the total gun deaths for 2016 we had 132, and 123 of those were suicides.
Can I
Right.
ask what .2 means?
It's a really small person.
Right, it's a really small person.
Yeah.
It's a really small person. So
Like that lady from India.
Yes.
There's a callback.
So,
understand.
based on those,
Actually,
I
call
think the
back.
reason why New Hampshire's the number 3 safest state is because our population is not as high.
Right.
The weather, okay, yeah, no, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. You have to go.
Chicago's pretty cold.
Yeah, there's one of the least safe states in the country. Also,
Exactly. But how can they put us on par with Illinois when we don't have nearly as many murders as they have in Illinois? How could I would tend to question that article that
right.
you
Oh,
read.
the article I read was totally bogus.
Right.
It was only written to encourage gun control.
Exactly.
Period. There was
Exactly.
no science behind
And
it.
I'll tell you, the sources that I got, the number of gun deaths in 2016, I got that right from USA Today. So this is not like this is a right-leaning news
Right,
source.
right.
Okay? And then New Hampshire doesn't make up the top 10 list of states with the least restrictive gun laws.
It is.
We do not. We absolutely do not. We're about 18th.
Really? Huh. Vermont's got to be number 1.
Nope.
They don't have any rules.
Montana was number 1.
What the heck could they do? Would they give you guns?
Maybe. Maybe. So for all the gun grabbing that's going on right now in New Hampshire, we don't even meet the criteria for the least restrictive gun laws in the country for the top 10.
Wow.
We're way down on the list.
Huh.
We're way down on the list. So, I just think that at this juncture, instead of everybody being so reactive
Right.
to what's going on, we need to be a little more proactive. And that doesn't mean limiting more guns. Me, what I would like to see, I'm probably going to get so much guff for this, but I would like to see any teacher who is willing and able to be trained to carry a firearm in school, do it.
You know what? You don't even need that. I'll tell you what you need.
What do we need?
You need a law that first or maybe you don't
Gary,
need.
I love you, but I
let me
hate when
finish.
somebody starts a
Okay.
sentence with "we need a law."
Okay, I'm probably phrasing it wrong, but just let me get to the point.
Okay.
We need there to be the ability for teachers to carry in a school.
Thank you.
Okay, now listen to this, right? Because you don't need any teachers actually carrying in the school. All that has to be known is that there might be a teacher or many teachers in that school who are carrying, and nobody except maybe the principal and law enforcement officers know who it is.
Right. Instead of putting a gun-free zone sign outside of a school, you put our teachers may carry firearms.
Or you just don't have a sign. I think.
No, I put a sign.
Anyway, as a student, might be unwarranted, but I wouldn't feel comfortable as a rather unpleasant student toward teachers, knowing that they might have a gun.
Yeah, but they can't shoot.
But
in
how would you
conjunction.
know?
Obviously, well, neither could that kid. He wasn't allowed to shoot.
How
me.
would you know they have a gun? You'd never know.
Yeah, but right now I know that they don't.
So you're comfortable with that.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. God forbid, knock on wood, God forbid, there's an active shooter coming through the school.
Yes.
Okay? So you're gonna go hide under a desk, or they're gonna lock the door, shut the lights off, the whole 9 yards. Wouldn't you have felt more comfortable if the teacher?
Absolutely, but that is
Okay.
a hypothetical situation that may never happen.
And so is the teacher pulling a gun on you.
Yes, but that is a more real. That's right there. If that law were to become real, I would worry about that, whether it's warranted or not, nonstop. Whereas that
So
school
if
shooter-
if you really aggravate a teacher, don't you think he just wouldn't smack you if he was that impulsive?
that would be really funny. And
Well,
I would be
no, it
able-
would be very tragic because
no,
that
it
would
wouldn't.
be.
I would be able to sue him, so I'd be. Cool
Well,
with
yeah, and
that.
he'd also be arrested and fired in the whole 9 yards. But the point I'm trying to make is, no matter what the weapon is, if a teacher is that out of control, they're
I-
going to find a way to inflict harm on you.
I don't necessarily disagree with the logic behind why it's okay. I just don't think me or other students would feel as safe in the school. And maybe it might be unwarranted.
So how would
But-
you feel more safe in the schools?
I think one thing that could help is in Rite Aids they have like those things right by the door to see if you're stealing. I feel like a school could afford like a metal detector right by the door or something. It goes off if something.
An active shooter doesn't care about a metal detector.
No, they might not, but
No, they
it gives
don't.
a warning. It gives a warning before people
What's
start
the
shooting.
warning?
It goes off.
But metal detectors are also known to historically be inaccurate.
Maybe.
They go off if someone's got a joint replacement.
Yeah, I know.
They go off if you got a metal buckle.
Right. So, and these are good. And you know what? This is what I mean about a conversation, not a walkout. A conversation. A conversation. Not to discredit what you say, but to put this stuff on the table. Let's see what we can do. I understand what you're saying about not feeling comfortable
I think-
knowing that a teacher may be armed, but you have an SRO who's in there who's armed.
That's a police officer, right?
Yeah.
I feel much more comfortable with someone who's trained. with a
Oh.
firearm.
We wouldn't put teachers, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of a teacher being in there with a firearm who hasn't had training like a police officer.
Yeah, that would be the liability for that would be
That
huge.
seems like you're gonna have to give your teachers a raise if they also have to be trained with a
Sure, I
firearm.
wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Well, I think what you would do is the teachers that want to do it they would offer training, and it would go towards their credits because they need X number of credits in school each year to maintain they just give them credit for it and give
I'm
the
not saying
classes
it's
for
gonna
free.
happen, I'm just saying it's an idea.
But yeah, I think all you need is for the person who is psychologically unbalanced, because that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with a normal kid who's frustrated or something like that at school
Right,
and goes shoots
like you
everybody.
And you know what, I have to tell you something, you're 14, you're frustrated at school, you're so normal. You are so normal. I remember that, I was too. You're so normal. So just be normal.
So, all we need is that person to be unsure of who is or isn't or may not be. Having a resource officer is great, except they know who it is and they know where they are. So that doesn't really that protects that immediate vicinity, but that's it. So it's not great. And the metal detectors, it's kind of sad to get to that. But the other thing is to put all this in perspective. And I heard the numbers yesterday. I cannot remember them. But the probability of him being with a friend in a car and dying in a car accident because his friend was texting is so much more probable than getting shot.
I know.
You know?
But it's here's the thing. With any time there's a shooting of this magnitude, it's the violence that's behind it.
Yeah.
And to me, you can't negate that. You
Right.
can't. That it's the most violent act that we could see, a mass shooting. There's no doubt about it. And the effects of it are going to be far-reaching for a long time. No doubt. It is definitely heinous.
Yeah.
No one would ever dispute that. But it has a much bigger emotional impact than a kid and another kid dying in a car accident because one of them was texting. And I think that's the unfortunate thing, Gary, because people weigh it on an emotional scale. They
Yeah.
weigh it on an emotional scale as opposed to, both of them are just as bad, but one's more likely to happen than the other. They don't. They don't look at the statistical stuff behind it. They're more caught up in the emotional. And I just want the adults in the room to step up and say, look, we know you kids are scared, but we're not going to let this happen to you.
I don't think
And-
you can really say that. You
Why?
can't say we're not going to let this happen to you. You don't
Of course
know
we
what's
can.
You don't know what's going to happen.
And, okay,
We're gonna
in the
do our
same
best to-
respect, we're going to do our best to make sure it doesn't
Yeah,
happen
that's,
to you.
yeah. Hey, Lisa, we only have like 10 minutes left. Is there
Shut
some-
up.
Yeah, I know, it goes wicked quick. Is there something you want to, did you want to talk about before we're out of time?
Why, do you end 10 minutes early?
No, I just wanted to make sure we didn't run out of time, because we're basically talking about the school shooting, and I just thought maybe you wanted to
And
cover
on a
something
high
else.
note.
End on a high note.
Oh,
Oh,
we'll always end on a high note.
Well, here's a counter argument toward we'll always be able to keep you safe, is that quick comic book metaphor here. Every time Batman one-ups Joker, Joker can one-up Batman. So every time they're going to be able to fix a problem, a new one's going to be able to come up, or they're going to find a way around everything they fix it. So
I
you
don't
can't-
disagree with you.
You can't promise that you're going to be able to keep kids safe, because there's always going to be that one kid that thinks of a new way on how you get around it, and then the whole problem's going to start up again.
Well, it's just like life. You're right. I can't guarantee that I'm always going to keep everybody safe. I can't guarantee I can keep my own son safe all the time. And he's 23 now, so I don't even, I wouldn't. I just gave him his tools and hope he keeps himself safe. You're right. I can't promise that. But what I think that the kids in the schools need to hear is that, you know what? We do hear you. We do hear you. And we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. We hear what you're saying. And we'd hear you a lot better if you sat down at a table and talked to us.
I would totally be willing to do that. I love arguing and debating, but I don't take very
You're
many.
good at it. You're very good at it. Did you get it from him?
No,
he's smarter than me.
I agree.
Well, what? You may be smarter, but he has life experience.
Yep, I agree with that too.
Hey, so tomorrow I get
Hey.
I think I'm going to be one of the first people up at bat on the House floor.
Yeah, what do we have coming up on the House floor tomorrow? We got a couple of things coming up tomorrow. We got a couple of things, a couple of bills coming up tomorrow.
Which ones are you talking about?
We have. Well, I'm on the election law committee. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. See,
No,
judiciary is the one I'm on, so that's one I'm speaking on the House floor on jury right to know.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's first thing.
Yep.
The Democrats are going to try to kill that again. They managed to kill it in the Senate, and I don't know how.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. When's crossover? End of the month?
It's actually was, I think, this week. I think it was past week. I think we had to suspend the rules because of the snowstorm last week
Right.
to have these bills which were due before crossover
Right.
decided.
Right. You want to go out on a positive note? What do you think of Dr. Vargas? Have you met the superintendent?
No, there was this one time I saw him we had this a fire drill at my school because someone pulled the fire alarm. So I saw him, and my grandmother was there because we were about to have a meeting. So I saw him, and I called the school district to see what was happening because I wanted to go back inside. I called the Manchester School District, and I said that I saw the superintendent, but I have not met him. I like that last year he never called snow days, and it was ridiculous. I think he's learning from his complaints.
Do you know why he never called snow days?
No.
He's from Rochester, New York. Do you know how much snow they get
They
in
got a lot
yeah,
of snow.
they
But
get a lot of snow.
everyone complained about it, so I assume he was like, fine, stop whining.
Well, again, he's from Rochester, New York. They're buried in snow all winter long. So he's coming from an area of the country where they don't call a lot of snow days because if they did, no one would go to school all winter long. So in
And they also have the
comparison,
equipment to clear it out.
well,
and they're
that's
used
true.
to clearing it out.
It's absolutely true. But in comparison, Manchester, when we get 2 to 3 inches of snow, there's a couple of things to think about, and I'll end on this. First off, Dr. Vargas is a very invested superintendent. I think we've really got someone who's going to turn things around for Manchester. I really do. But there's a couple of things to consider when he calls a snow day. We have the highest free and reduced lunch population in the state.
Yeah.
In the school system. So a lot of times when you call school, some of those kids don't eat. And he knows that.
I have free lunch, and I still eat. And my mom is really, really poor. Even if I were to stay at her house, like, we're real poor. I can still get food.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. There are some kids that don't have that option. So it's just one of the reasons that he takes all of that into consideration before he does cancel school. Okay, so while a lot of people did do a lot of complaining last year when he didn't cancel school when they thought he should have, it's a big responsibility for one person, and he has to get a lot of information in from the city. How's the plowing? How's the roads? And the other option too is, and I've told a lot of parents this, look, if you don't feel safe sending your kid to school, don't send them. You have that option. You're their parents.
Right.
I get what you're saying. You want to send your kid to school, but if you really feel that the roads aren't safe for your kid to be on a bus, or you don't feel safe for your kid to walk to school, or you're not able to drive them, keep them home.
I don't think I feel comfortable going to school tomorrow.
No snow.
Still.
So I've always told, I think we've taken a lot of that away from the parents. It's like, make your own, these are your kids.
Yep.
These are your kids. I can vividly remember when my son was younger, if I didn't feel that the roads were, adequate, or I didn't feel safe putting him on a bus to go to school, or if I even didn't want to drive across town to drop him off, I would keep him home.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we gotta go.
Yeah,
Already?
We got about
do.
1 minute.
We got about one. Lisa,
1 minute right now.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Just started at 1 minute.
Lisa,
It was fantastic to meet you.
No, fantastic to meet you, sir.
thank you very much for
It
coming on.
was my pleasure, Gary. Thank you for letting me blabber.
Thank you for doing all you do. It is.
Go team.
It's just awesome to have people that are doing it, running for office and fighting for things because they really believe in it, not for their own selfish motives.
I have no
You're an
motives.
awesome lady.
No, thank you.
We'll have to have you again. Take care. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Gary.